Dun, dun. Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay, my fault. So I'm going to start the meeting for tonight, September 11. The next meeting is October 9, 2024 at 7 p.m. In accordance with Mass General Law, Sections 1825, notice is hereby given a meeting of Peabody Conservation Commission. At this time, Peabody Conservation Commission hearings will continue to be held remotely, which is allowed pursuant to Governor Maura Healey's March 29, 2023 extension of the temporary provisions allowing remote hearings until March 2025. Public may participate in this meeting remotely. A meeting ID is provided on the Conservation Commission agenda, and it's also posted on the city's website and inside City Hall. If the members of the public wish to speak, use the button at the bottom to raise your hand and we will call on you. To get started, notice of intent, number 1. Public hearing for notice of intent submitted by Daniel Doucette, purchasing agent, City of Peabody, for the City of Peabody. The proposed project is the construction of a new public safety headquarters and associated parking lots, stormwater infrastructure, utilities, and landscaping. Property is known as 6 Allens Lane and 85 Perkins Street, map 84, lot 215, and map 83, lot 90. This is the first night that we're talking about this. There was a site visit on 9/4, and police station floods when it rains. So that's one of the reasons we need to get a new one. Is Dan here? Who's speaking for the project?
We have the project engineers, Fuss and O'Neill, represented.
Okay.
They completed all the necessary documentation for the notice of intent, and they've been working together with the project architects Tecton and W.T. Rich, who was the general contractors on the site plan, the early site package. So I'm going to turn it over to the people from Fuss and O'Neill.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
So good evening, everyone. For the record, my name's Kevin McGarry. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. My background is in land development and stormwater design, and I am a senior project manager with Fuss and O'Neill, working out of our Quincy, Massachusetts office. With me tonight, also from Fuss O'Neill, is Josue Valdez, who's the project engineer on this project, and April Dorosky, who is one of our wetland scientists. And then with us, in addition to Dan from Tecton, who is the architect of record on this project, is Matt Salad, who's the project manager, and Tyler, who is the project architect. So my plan for the evening, if it's all right with the commission, is I can share my screen and sort of walk the commission through the project, give you guys an overview, and then obviously we have our whole team here available if you have any questions. Is that okay with the commission?
Yes.
Seeing
Please
a lot of
proceed.
head nodding.
Please proceed.
All right. Bear with me. Oh, I do not have the ability to share.
One sec.
Okay.
Now you should.
Okay. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my screen, and can everybody also hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, so what I have up on the screen is our engineering plan with a little bit of color and an aerial image on the back. So just to get everyone orientated to our site here, this is Allen's Lane over here on the right side of the page. The existing police station is right here. The Higgins Middle School is up off the page here, the building, and then the athletic fields for the Higgins Middle School is up here. There's an existing overflow parking lot for, well, there was an existing overflow parking lot, I should say more accurately, for the school. And that's sort of the location of where our proposed public safety facility is going. So as was previously stated, we're here tonight under a notice of intent. So the work we're doing under the notice of intent is we have work within the 100-foot buffer of inland bank. And we also have some work within bordering land subject to flooding, or as we all like to call it, BLSF. The work that is going to occur within that jurisdictional area, I'll go into more detail on later, but just so the commission's aware, it is really limited to some stormwater improvements to better get the stormwater from our site down to the wetland, and then some minor work occurring over in the existing parking lot in a previously disturbed area. We're not proposing any new impervious surfaces within the buffer zone or the BLSF. And the work over here at the existing police station is only in buffer zone. It's not in BLSF. So our wetlands were delineated by Lucas Environmental on July 3rd, 2023. Just very quickly, the wetland resources areas that are within our project area, there's an inland bank that was delineated starting over here and runs all the way down over here, and that's inland bank associated with this unnamed pond to the south of our site. And as I mentioned, we do have work within the 100-foot buffer of that inland bank. There are two bordering vegetated wetland areas. There's a small fringe wetland that deviates ever so slightly from the inland bank over here, pretty good distance away from our site. And then there was a bordering vegetated wetland that was delineated that's associated with the pond on the other side of the causeway here over on this portion of the site. The buffer associated with those two BVW areas is outside the limit of our project work. We also have land under water bodies and waterways with the unnamed pond. Again, that is unaffected by this project. It's outside of our limit of work. And then we have bordering land subject to flooding. So the FEMA 100-year base flood elevation in this area based on the FEMA mapping is elevation 38. And that's delineated by this big blue dashed line on the plan here. And then this sort of more dashed green line, that is our composite 100-foot buffer from the outermost resource area of this BVW, the inland bank, and the other BVW area. So I'm going to just flip to another plan. I'm just zooming in a little bit closer for context. I wanted the overall plan so the commission could just see all the resource areas. So really the main focal point, the centerpiece to this project is our new public safety headquarters building, which as I mentioned is generally located where that overflow parking lot used to be. We'll be maintaining primary access from the existing curb cut on Allen's Lane. We'll be widening it slightly, and then that'll be the primary driveway that comes into the site. The main entrance to the building is here. There's a secondary entrance over in this location for the fire administration office. There'll be a rear entrance in the back of the building where most of the police department will come in and out from their shifts. There's a sally port over on this portion of the building, which is where police vehicles can enter and securely transport prisoners in and out of the facility. And then we do have some additional garage spaces for maintenance of police vehicles and storage of vehicles in the back over here. This rear portion of the site will actually be the secured area of the site. There's a fence that comes from over on the corner of the building in this area, crosses the driveway with an electronic gate here, sort of wraps around the back of our site, and then connects back to the corner of the building here, again with another electronic gate. That's simply done so that this area of the police station can be secured from the public. In addition to our main entrance at the front, we have a little bit of a plaza area to make the building feel welcoming to the public. So there'll be raised planters, some seat walls, flagpoles, and bike racks. There's also a covered area over here. What the police station, or excuse me, what the police department has noticed historically is that students from the Higgins Middle School, participating in after-school activities, sort of congregate down near the existing police station as they're waiting for their parents to come pick them up. So credit to really the police station and Tecton. Fussinoti didn't have a lot to do with it because it's part of the building, but it's a great amenity that I think is awesome that we're giving back to the community, and it's a little covered area dedicated for where those students can wait for their parents. It's a small little rear plaza area in the secure staff to be able to use. The project's been designed to incorporate a future solar canopy on this area in the back here. You may have wondered why there's sort of a no man's land here of trees, and that was done intentionally so that if a future solar canopy does come in, it's not part of the project today, but we are making the project ready for it. We wouldn't have to disturb any of those trees. Just a couple other major site elements. We have a dumpster enclosure over in this location. We have sort of a utility yard, for lack of a better word, where our generator, transformers, and electrical equipment, electrical service will come in. As I'll get into a little bit later, we do have a significant amount of grade change along in this property. So we have a pretty substantial retaining wall along the back here. Small retaining wall over by the dumpster, small retaining wall at a little pinch point here. And then those will be modular block walls because they're really only visible from the police station or from the back of the house, if you will. There's two cast in place walls, one proposed here along the frontage and then one proposed along the edge of the building. And those are designed, again, aesthetically to look similar to the building. That impound lot I mentioned, that'll be located down in this existing police, what will be the former police station parking lot. And that's intended to just be some chain link fencing that'll be installed sort of in and around the existing pavement. We're working through some additional utilities that might have to be installed through there for security purposes, but all that work will be within the existing previously disturbed areas. And then the last sort of major site feature, there's existing rock outcropping that if the commission, I believe some of the commission members may have walked the site, it's pretty prominent. So we've worked as a design team to be able to design around that and be able to keep that rock outcropping as part of the site features. From a landscaping standpoint, it's a mix of variety of native trees, shrubs, and ground covers throughout the site, mostly lawn areas for seeding, but the handful of stormwater basins that we do have will be planted with a bioretention seed mix, and all our plants and seedings are designed to be low maintenance and drought resistant. From an overall stormwater standpoint, we do have an overall increase in impervious area. I think that's pretty apparent by just looking at the plan. So we have a combination of storm sewer networks, so catch basins, manholes, and pipes, and then we have several subsurface infiltration systems and infiltration basins. And through those stormwater measures, we're able to mitigate peak flows, provide adequate stormwater treatment, and promote the necessary groundwater recharge and meet all the standards of the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook. Everything's been designed to have 4-foot separation to seasonal high groundwater. And again, as the commission is more than likely aware, we went out for an early bid package for blasting to remove some of the rock, and we're moving rock so that it'll be removed also 4 feet below any infiltration system. I'm going to jump off of my beautifully colored plan to a boring engineering plan for a moment so we can get into the work that's within the buffer zone and BLSF. So again, this is the same grading plan that was submitted with the notice of intent. The buildings here, the Higgins Athletic School, athletic fields are over here. existing police station buildings over here off the page. I'm just going to zoom in. So the green line here, that's the 100-foot buffer. This line down here with the triangles, that's our inland bank. And then this line here kind of wraps around, comes around here. That is our BLSF line, with obviously the stuff on the wetland side being in BLSF and the stuff on the upgradient side being outside of BLSF. So the work within the buffer is limited to, we have portions of a storm pipe and a culvert end here, a level spreader that we will discharge our pipe into, a swale that will get the water down from that level spreader down closer to both horizontally and vertically to the wetlands, and then a pretty substantial level spreader in this area so that the concentrated flows will dissipate and flow into the wetlands. When we originally designed this project, we did not have any work, with the exception of the impound lot in the existing parking lot. When we first started this design, we were not anticipating having any work in the wetland buffer. However, what we have been experiencing in the last 2 years specifically is we're seeing increased rainfall events, and these rainfall events are coming with less warning, and they're much more intense than what we have historically seen. Our concern with not doing work in the wetland buffer and simply putting a level spreader up here is that over time, those stormwater flows would reconcentrate, and in heavy stormwater events result in erosion, because there's about 25 vertical feet of grade change between this point where we would discharge and where the water has to get to down at the wetland. And within that 25 vertical feet, this area right here where the pipe is, some of these slopes are steeper than 2 to 1. So again, based on our experience, we thought it offers actually a higher level of protection for the wetlands in the long run to intentionally give the stormwater a way to get down these steeper slopes, get it as close to the wetland area as we can, put it in a level spreader where we do have those gentler slopes down in this location. We kind of figured we could come in front of you with a proactive NOI, because we didn't want to have to be in front of you potentially a year or so down the road with a reactive NOI. So as a result, we have approximately we have exactly 8,257 square feet of disturbance to BLSF. Just under half of that, 4,010, is permanent, and that's the work associated with small portion of this level spreader, the swale, and this level spreader here. The temporary impacts are a result of sort of the access that's going to be required to get from the existing parking lot over to this area. I will note this little box on the plan here. This is a little pump house, and it's my understanding that this was constructed at one point with the intention of being able to use it to irrigate the Higgins fields. I don't believe it's currently being used, but essentially from this little pump house over to the existing parking lot, that's already sort of previously disturbed area. So the intent would be to come in here, use that for our access, and then if any damages that are done in that area would be restored. Just going to jump real quick over to a site plan. So again, I've just sort of shifted over. This is the existing police station building. Here's Allen's Lane. So this is that back corner of the parking lot. Again, the green line here is our wetland buffer. The wetlands are off the page here. You just can't see them. So again, the limit of work associated with the area over here is really just the installation of this chain link fence, much of which is really just on the fringe of the existing parking lot. Some of it will obviously be through the existing parking lot. we have a gate here so that the police can enter in and out. And then we've proposed another gate here so that for future access for maintenance purposes to that level spreader and drainage swale, so that we can get equipment over there when it's needed. I'm gonna go back up to this plan because I think it's kind of the most relevant. So where we sort of stand today is we have received a couple sets of comments. So we have comments from Lucia, we have comments from the Peabody Department of Public Service, and we have some preliminary comments from Mass DEP. Those comments have sort of come in the last maybe week at the latest. So we have not had time to put together a formal response to them. What we have had time to do is go through the comments and review them. We are not anticipating any of these comments are going to result in any sort of major significant changes to the design, especially as it relates to the work, within the buffer zone and the BLSF. We were also given a draft order of, I guess, not the order of conditions, but your special conditions, and we have reviewed those. There are a couple items in there we would like to discuss with the commission, but I will pause here and allow for questions, or if the commission would prefer, I can jump right into some of those conditions we want to discuss, but I will give it back to the commission for the time being.
Anybody have any questions at this point?
Through the chair,
Go ahead.
have you already or I guess I should just ask it this way. So there's an existing parking lot that was for overflow. Is it wooded, or was it wooded around it? Where this building's going?
Yeah, so we are clearing some woods. Yes, I didn't mean to convey that the whole new development is within that parking area. There is some clearing that has to happen. Dan mentioned W.T. Rich, who is their construction manager on this project. Under Mass General Law, you can build a project, design, bid, build, or you can go what's called CM at risk. This is a little bit of a long-winded answer. We went CM at risk, and what that allowed us to do was go out for an early bid package, like I hinted, for site clearing and wetlands, site clearing, not wetlands blasting. That would be bad. Rock blasting. So for the commission members who have been to the site, that parking lot is already gone and the site has been cleared. So sorry, it was a little bit of a long-winded answer there, but there it was additional clearing that occurred outside of that parking lot.
I guess I have one question regarding that. Was the commission aware of the tree removal that you were planning before you took them down?
Was the commission aware of the early bid package? Yeah, I believe we received a permit from the city to do that work. The contractor did, so that would have been submitted and gone through the proper channels.
Okay, thank you.
And we've been in, yeah.
Anybody else in the commission have a question? Continue, please.
Okay, so would you like me to dive into just some of our comments on the conditions?
Sure.
Okay. So, condition 31C sort of was asking us to like delineate the wetlands on a 25-foot basis. We would simply request that we just amend that part of the condition to just say refresh the existing wetland flags as delineated. Again, I can throw the plan up again, but we feel that that's at a pretty appropriate spacing. Let me know. Do you want me to take them one at a time, Mr. Chairman?
Sure. I mean, that was one of the things we would want to see anyway, refreshing the flag. Go ahead.
All right. There was a condition 43 was requesting signs every 6 feet along the limit of work within the 100-foot buffer. We would propose to amend that to the the signs to just clarify that they are temporary signs, and we felt like every 50 feet might be a little more appropriate distance. We'll have erosion controls around the entire site. WT Rich, for the majority of the project, will have a temporary construction fence around the entire site. And as I sort of showed on our site plan, the majority of the limit of work where we are really close to that wetland buffer, we have a retaining wall. So the chances of anybody going past that retaining wall, if they go past that retaining wall, they're going to have a whole nother set of issues to contend with. So we would just request that along the 100-foot buffer, we can do temporary signs at a spacing of 50 feet.
Anybody have a problem with that?
All right. Condition number 44, for the permanent marking of the edge of the wetland buffer. We would propose to amend this to just say up to 5 permanent signs. And what we can do is we can work directly with Lucia to determine exactly where those go and exactly what they say. We think having one down near that level spreader is going to be appropriate, just so people remember when they're maintaining it, you know, that they need to stay within the limit of work and not go, you know, digging that out and dumping it on the other side. But again, we just felt like 5 permanent signs would be appropriate for this project.
Okay. Anybody have a comment on it? Please continue.
All right, unless April or Josue tell me I missed one, I think our last one was condition 48. No earthen embankment in the buffer zone shall have a slope steeper than 2 to 1. We would greatly appreciate if the commission would add or steeper than existing conditions, because we do have some slopes that are steeper and we don't want to go chasing slopes that are already stabilized.
To the chair, are those greater than 2 to 1?
Yeah, where I showed that, you know, that storm pipe sort of comes down, there's some areas in there that are like it was like whatever 5 vertical feet in 8 feet is. I didn't 4.2.
Okay, so how are you planning on treating that slope? You're gonna have a modified rock fill or riprap, something coming?
We would stabilize that with an erosion. So when we go and have to dig that pipe in, we would repair it. We want to just match the slope on either sides of our trench, and then we would propose erosion control blanket on top of that to stabilize that.
For up to a 1.5 to 1?
It's not quite 1.5 to 1. It's like just a hair over 2 to 1.
Okay.
And again, there's not a lot of storm water coming down that. We can look into it closer and see if it warrants like a riprap slope. If the commission wants it to be riprap slope, I think we're fine with that. I think, you know, it's like if you do riprap slope, it doesn't really restore to a natural vegetated state.
Well,
So,
you could, if you put riprap, you can always introduce soil and fill in all the voids, and then introduce a seed mix to fill in that. Since we're talking about slopes, I did notice in photographs that are in the file that were made available for us tonight, you have a limit of work designation on the plan, and looking at the photos, it appears that you've got, and you're putting your BMPs for your filter socks and your silt fence, that you have disturbance. So those are all in place, yet you've got disturbance up to about 10 feet beyond where the BMPs are. And so what's protecting that from any storms, severe storms? It's all been clear cut, so there's no vegetation there now. So you got 10 feet of disturbed ground up at the top of slope that falls about 10 feet outside of your stormwater silt fence and silt socks.
I'm sorry, are you talking about an existing condition that exists based on the construction project that's out, or a proposed condition on the plan?
What's physically out there now, photos that are in the file here show that disturbance, your BMPs were in place, yet the disturbance is about 10 feet outside of that. And it all occurs along the top of slope where it's pretty steep. So I don't know why that's like that.
Yeah, I was out last week, so I didn't go to the site. So I'm not. I would say if you feel that there's an issue, if you could send that to Lucia, and we'll work with the contractor to make sure that gets resolved if it's a current issue at the site today.
Okay. Well, it is current. The photos were fairly recent. They're on the OneDrive-ish. Looks like it's maybe tied to the work that you've done up till now.
Right, right. So if they had an erosion control line and then they did some disturbance out here and this is down gradient, then we need to address that. Definitely.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, take a look at that because that's what I think the condition currently is.
okay.
There you go.
Okay. So yeah, I think we would want them to get a compost sock probably along that
Yes.
where that edge of woods is there, and then obviously make sure we had a compost sock more than likely on the inside of that fence as well, so that the only water we're dealing with there is the water that falls directly on it.
Okay.
I appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Anybody else? The project looks ambitious. Give you that. How long do you think it'll take to build?
So we'll be going out to bid. So like I said, what's currently under contract and out to bid is just the clearing and the blasting, and that's wrapping up. We'll be going out to bid for the remainder of the site work this fall, late fall, November. And the intention is that site work, we'd get a new contractor on board and that would start spring of 2025. And I think we're looking at like all buttoned up and everything, probably summer, fall of 2026.
Okay.
Through the chair, I have another question.
Go ahead.
So with regard to the site is pretty well cleared, obviously taking out rock and so forth so that you can grade it and put your building in drainage features. So with regard to the staging for all the stormwater, what is your plan? Are you going to be cutting in and building the retention areas in first so that you can collect stormwater during construction and have the those available to handle the stormwater and get it down to where the wetland is?
That would be my vision of what they do is they get get those retaining walls started, right? Because a retaining wall is going to be an immense amount of perimeter control, and sort of start from that downhill slope because we do have to do a good chunk of filling. And then they can have temporary sediment traps as needed along that bottom of slope. And then I would hope the contractor does build that level spreader and everything first, with the intention of obviously any sort of rain event that they're not even having a discharge would be the hope. And then if their things are filling up, if they have to use a skimmer and pump and can get the clean water pumped or through a dewatering bag, that any water that does flow down there is nice and clean. But just go ahead.
I think it'd be a good idea to have that planned out sooner than later, so that
Yeah.
that maybe that should be the plan, to do that and not leave it up to the contractor to decide
Yeah.
whether or not.
We can, we'd be happy to amend the construction sequence to just state that that's got to get done first.
Okay.
We can do that.
Okay, great.
Anything else? Anybody else? Plus two. There. All right. Is there is that Bruce?
Yeah, that was just clearing my throat.
Okay. Uh,
Is this at the point where we're going to continue? Given that there's some things that are identified by Commissioner Rizzo.
we can do that. I have one question regarding the parking lot. You don't indicate, or at least I haven't seen it indicated, any charging stations for electric vehicles. Is that going to be included in the project?
So Matt, jump in and correct me if I'm stating this incorrectly. We are similar to the solar canopy. We are setting this up to be EV ready, but I don't believe there's any EV charging that will be built as part of this project.
That's kind of correct. Yeah, Matt Salad, project manager with Tecton Architects. So right now we've currently designed a number of EV charging stations, both on the secure side of the parking lot for the officers' use, as well as for the public use in the front of the building. As part of the construction contracts, currently we're providing locations within the panel board for that and conduit pathways and stubbing up at locations for a future installation that the city can then take on themselves after the project has been completed.
Okay, and again, I'm not clear on whether the police cars are electric yet, but if they are, we kind of need that done sooner than later, no?
If I could jump in, we actually have electric vehicles now that were the BMWs that were donated from the local dealer. Those are in, I think the first vehicles that will be electric will be administrative, not pursuit vehicles. And that's on the secured side. We have infrastructure in place to support several charging stations in the back. For the public station in the front, from a procurement standpoint, we'll probably be using similar equipment to what was installed downtown for purposes of payment processing, because that's kind of the third part of putting in EV stations in a public place, is how does somebody pay for the power? But PMLP is on board with how they want infrastructure in place to support them. And the only issue with the public area is we don't want somebody coming over from the Higgins that's a teacher or somebody on staff and parking. But we'll have surveillance throughout the site, and you're doing it at a police station. So I think there's certainly some control that would happen if someone were to abuse the system.
A
So
deterrent.
we're waiting for, I think the big thing will be what will happen with police pursuit vehicles. But administrative vehicles will probably be the next wave of either full electric or hybrid.
The reason I'm asking is I don't want it to be an afterthought and dig up the parking lot. I want it to be conduited.
It will be we'll run all the conduits out so that really the work required when EV is ready is kind of going to be limited to like the grass island behind the curb.
Well, I mean, this is just, a rational approach to this thing. I don't want to spend any more money than I have to electrify vehicles. And So are you guys gonna take care of the design for the conduit and doing it?
Yes, so the conduits and pull ropes will be installed as part of this project.
All right, so those are not on the plan yet.
They're shown on the electrical engineer's plan.
Okay, I haven't seen that, but it's okay.
Yep.
So you considered it, okay.
Yep, it'll be in the project.
Uh, in the project, I believe it talked about a maintenance plan. And I'm just reinforcing the fact that we like to see the reports for maintenance to go to Lucia. I believe it's October 31st every year to make sure that this is done, because the conduits and the waterways are important to keep maintained and clear. And it's part of the process.
Yep, that's understood, and we did prepare an O&M plan, so.
Okay, no, I'm just saying that we should make sure that the reports are going to Lucia on a specific day every year.
Okay.
So anybody else? Do we want to continue this until we see further plan, or do we want to vote on this?
I think we should probably continue it because it looks like this the comments from DEP haven't been addressed, and so why don't we wait till that stuff's done,
Okay,
and then they have the same time to look at the slopes and see about the BMPs and maybe showing some corrections to that.
do I have a motion to continue?
Well,
Wait, you need to open it to the public first, though.
Oh, I thought we didn't. Okay. Open it to the public. Anybody in the public have to speak or wish to speak? I don't see any hands raised. Do you? I do not see any hands raised. We can, do we want to close the public hearing or just
No,
continue, leave it open until we continue?
yeah, you're just going to continue.
Okay, so I need a motion.
Before, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just before you close it, and I can't talk anymore. So we have those sets of, so the expectation from the commission is that we would come back with we will submit a written response to comments letter addressing all the open comments that we have received in writing. And then the two comments I have written down, I just want to make sure that I got them. Is Mr. Rizzo, you mentioned the erosion issue, but I think I'm going to keep that separate because that's sort of an ongoing issue, but we'll get that addressed. And then just to amend the construction sequence to require some of these down gradient things to be constructed first. So just we're obviously happy to continue, but the intent would be we would come back and with a response letter to the written comments and then the one comment from Mr. Rizzo. Did I miss anything else?
Well, in the comments from DEP, they talked from DPS. I think some of the comments spoke about the parking arrangements and about if you could reduce the amount of parking spaces, and there was 5 comments.
Yep. We have those comments and we can issue responses to those as well. We're not going to reduce the number of parking spaces that the police department need. We calculated the number of parking spaces in conjunction with the police department, and this is what they need. So that's what was in their program. And we can have that conversation with DPS as well.
Yep. Very good.
Okay. Motion to continue?
Make that motion, continue for our next meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes, that motion was made by Mr. Rizzo. I believe I heard Jamie second, so I'm gonna go with that one. Roll call, Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack, Commissioner Comack, Commissioner Athos,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrop,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack?
Yes.
All right, so that passes 7-0, I believe. And I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting, oh, did I ask Mr. Cassidy? Did I just do a horrible roll call?
Yes.
I did do a horrible, I'm sorry. So I meant to say at the beginning that Brian and Mr. Cassidy and Mrs. Harrop both have voting privilege. So sorry, let me go back. Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Athos,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
and Commissioner Harrop.
Yes.
All right, so that does pass 7-0.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
See you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care.
One thing I would like to point out for our next meeting, the deadline date for submissions would be September 12, I believe. Correct?
That is for new submissions.
Okay, so then
For continued, it's normally 2 weeks
Continued-
before. I don't have it in front of
continued
me
is the
now.
September 25 is continued for continued projects. Okay?
Thank you. I'll pass that along to the project team for those that may have dropped off before you gave that deadline.
Thanks,
I was still
Dan.
here then.
Well, we'll be seeing everybody tomorrow evening for the request to the council for the special permit. So I will be passing that along within 24 hours.
Okay, good. And good to see you, Dan. Next item. Item 2, continued public hearing on a notice of intent submitted by Wetlands and Land Management Inc. William Manuel for J&D Real Estate Solutions LLC, John DeCoulis. Proposed work is demolition of existing single-family home, redevelopment of parcel into 3 townhouse-style units with access driveway, garage parking, landscaping, stormwater management facilities, and new utilities. The work includes 650 square foot of filled wetlands and replication areas. The property is known as 24.5 North Central Street, map 64, lot 28. And we started reviewing this back on February 7. I see that there's a request for a continuance, so I need a motion to continue this.
Motion to continue.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
All right. I believe that was made by Amanda, seconded by Brian. Roll call, Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Athos,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
and Commissioner Harrop.
Yes, but I'm not sure I can vote because it was a
Oh.
February item.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so Brian and Jamie both cannot vote. So
Yeah, I gotta take that back.
sorry guys. So that passes 5-0. Thank you so much, Jamie, for catching that.
Of course.
Okay.
Oh, actually, hold on. If Brian seconded, he actually can't second it. So I need someone else to second it.
I'll second it.
Okay, Arthur.
All right, I got to do it over. Sorry, guys. Thank you so much, Jamie, for catching that. Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
and Commissioner Athos.
Yep.
All right, 5-0.
Item 3. Continued public hearing on a notice of intent submitted by Williams and Sparagus LLC, Thorson Ackerley for 10 Monroe Realty LLC, Joseph Salvaggio. The proposed project is a construction of multifamily residential building with BLSF and riverfront. The property is known as 10 and 12 Monroe Street, map 85, lot 2H and 2L. We first met on this on July 31, and I believe we want to continue this. The property owner has not signed peer review documents. So I need a motion to continue.
Motion to continue.
Hey. Oh,
Oh, sorry, Arthur.
all right. Go ahead.
Motion to continue, please.
Second?
I'll second.
Second,
I think I heard Jamie and seconded by Brian. Was that correct?
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, I'll take a mic shot.
Was it you or was it Arthur? I couldn't tell.
Okay. Yeah,
It was
Brian.
Arthur?
No, I think it wasn't.
Either me or Mike,
Yeah.
Yeah,
one of the three. So you have your choice.
I need to know who it was, you guys. You need to just tell me a name.
go with Brian, we'll go with me. Go with
All right.
Alicia.
All right, so roll call. Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes,
Commissioner Athos,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes,
and Commissioner Harrop.
Yes.
All right, so that item is continued to October 9th, 7-0.
Item 4, continued public hearing on a notice of intent submitted by Hayes Engineering, Inc., care of Peter Ogren, for Atlantic Coast Home, care of Michael Becker. The owner is Hardy and Monroe LLC. Michael Becker is the manager. Proposed work is the construction of a commercial condominium and associated parking, utilities, and landscaping. Property is known as 0 Hardy Street, map 85, lot 1. We began talking about this on February 7th. We're informed that
Yes,
DPS
Stu, there is someone in the audience. I was told by William Pollitt that this was going back to peer review because the documents were revised, like, or the peer review came back like many months ago, and they just got the comments back to us like a couple weeks ago. I guess DPS never got in touch with them. So Mr. Ogren is here tonight, but William Pollitt has told me it is going back to peer review. So we can certainly listen, but he would advise not to be closing and making a motion. So I'm going to go ahead and promote Peter Ogren.
Okay. Peter, your microphone is muted.
There
Thank
we
you.
go. Okay, you got me now.
Tell us your name and address, please.
Peter Owen, I'm with Hayes Engineering, 603 Salem Street, Wakefield, Massachusetts. We
Thank you.
provided the responses to the peer review a couple of weeks ago, and I did talk with Will Pollitt. I thought he was going to talk and make the recommendations because I had talked previously with the former DPW director about the last piece of information we were looking for was a recommendation as to whether additional stormwater management would be required. Will didn't tell me yesterday that he was going to send it for peer review, so I was not aware of that. He didn't tell me. I talked with him yesterday. So I can discuss the issues, or we can wait for the response of Horsley and Witten, whichever you want to do.
Go ahead.
I just want to make it clear that since we are missing one person, like this would be the I mean, actually, I don't even know if we have a quorum for this. Has everyone been here for every meeting on this? The alternates cannot vote on this. Mike
Why don't we-
Mulvey is not here.
Why don't we just continue this then and not,
Yeah,
not,
and
make Peter do this?
there were more comments coming forth. I'd like to see them first before discussing anything.
Okay. So we want to continue this. Can I have a motion to continue?
motion to continue.
A second,
Roll call.
Yes, that motion was made by Amanda, seconded by who?
Mike.
me.
Mike
So,
Will.
I just want to, before I do the roll call, I just want to make sure that Mr. Ogren is, if that is, I mean, if you want to speak tonight, that is your if you don't want to continue this. I was just concerned with the amount of commissioners that are here. And if Mike Vivaldi, the Mullen Rule, and if he missed more than one, he can only miss one meeting. And I can't remember off the top of my head how many times this has actually been discussed. I know it was discussed at least once.
I believe it was only once, Lucia.
And it was in February. So, I mean, that's up to you guys. If the motion's already here, if you want to just wait and talk to Will, or if you want to, you're going to have to like repeat everything again next meeting. So it's really up to you. I didn't want to leave you hanging if you were expecting.
No, I can talk to Will again. I mean, I talked with him yesterday and I thought he was set to go forward with it. That's what he indicated to me, but apparently he changed his mind, so we'll continue.
Right.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and do the roll call that was made by Amanda, seconded by Mr. Rizzo. Roll call, Chairman Lazares.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo.
Yes.
Commissioner Comack.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
And Commissioner Athis.
Yes.
All right, so that item is continued 5-0, with the alternates not voting.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
Hey, good to see you again.
Thank you, Peter. Item 5, continued public hearing and notice of intent submitted by attorney John Kelty for Josephine Cook, the owner. Proposed work is the construction of a single-family house, associated utilities, grading, and driveway to properties known as 29 Glendale Ave, also known as 25 Glendale Ave, map 120, lot 27. We started discussing this back in March of 2023. There's no motion needed. It has been requested to be continued till October 9. I'm just reading it because it's part of the agenda. Item 6, continued public hearing on an existing order of conditions, DEP file 55-928, submitted by Williams and Sparages. Chris Sparages for Ray Fleet, the applicant and owner. Proponent is requested, the proponent is requesting the commission to consider an amendment to an existing order of conditions and determine if it falls under the guidelines of the Mass DEP amendment policy. Property is known as 60 Pulaski Street, lot 85, Peabody, Mass. The first meeting date was July 31 of 2024. Lucia, you received revised documents on this one?
No, I received an email saying that the revised documents were not prepared and continuance, I believe that is.
Okay.
I don't see anyone here, so I would suggest continue.
Motion to continue.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
All right, that motion was made by Mr. Rizzo, seconded by Mr. Cassidy. Roll call, Chairman Lazares.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo.
Yes.
Commissioner Comack.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Athis.
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
And Commissioner Harrop.
Yes.
All right, so that is continued 7-0.
Enforcement orders and violation orders. Number 7, continued enforcement order issued to Salem Country Club for the following activities: removal of living trees, grinding, grubbing stumps in the buffer zone in close proximity to jurisdictional resource areas, and depositing wood chips in buffer zones and along local riverfront woods. Property is known as 133 Forest Street, Peabody, Mass. We started talking about this in April of 2022. Is anybody here from the country club? Oh, you are there, Bill. Anybody else here?
Attorney Fogel declined to become a panelist. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
We were kind of just meeting for DeRosa to give his thing right, and then they didn't make it and sent a letter.
You're saying that because DeRosa is not here, we should continue it, correct?
I'm not saying, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Excuse me, Barry texted me.
I'm here.
Okay.
Am I-
Sorry.
All right, the issue that I believe we're talking about tonight is one of the issues is that Lucia had, well, the country club through Barry had indicated for a long time that the cost of DeRoche's quotes are they're not acceptable. And Lucia went out and on her own sent out quotes to certified arborists, and quotes came back. And I did a summary page on the quotes, which I think everybody got. And the summary showed basically that DeRosa's quotes are reasonable. Do you care to comment on that, Barry?
Yes, I would, and I actually sent an email back to you. I hope it got circulated where we commented on that. It was sent over Monday afternoon around 1:30. And it included a set of comments on the quote summary that you had provided. Did that get to you?
I believe so. You're saying that this is a letter from you on August 6th, correct?
No, this was an email sent on September 9th.
Okay, I don't, well, go ahead and you can read it if you want.
Sure. So in looking at the proposals, it was a little bit confusing because they all gave a little bit different language on what they were saying, but the premise, as we understood it, was that there would be they would make a site visit, one site visit to come out and look at the planted areas. They would review the annual report that Salem Country Club files in November of each year, and then would prepare some comments on that report and then attend a Conservation Commission meeting. So from the experience that we've had now for quite a while for these site visits, it generally has been taking only about 3 hours or so. And with travel time, we figured 3 or 4 hours was reasonable. And of the 3 that you had gotten from arborists, Heirloom was the only one that had hours for a site visit and report and Concom meeting attendance that was consistent. The others just had far more hours, and that's on the table you sent. The hourly rates that Gaffin and Heirloom had sent in were more in line with what DeRosa's has been billing, maybe actually a bit higher for their staff. And then we couldn't tell how many hours they were proposing actually for some of them. The table you showed were much higher numbers. So based on what we have been saying, we thought and how we had commented on DeRosa's proposal from earlier this year, the Salem Country Club thinks that what would be reasonable if the commission wants to have ongoing peer review is about $750 for some one person. You know, one of our concerns has been that DeRosa Environmental has been bringing 3 people out and using 3 people to do the same thing a lot and has been driving up the cost. But it should be about 4 hours for one individual to conduct a site visit. And then we thought that about $1,500 to review the annual report and to provide a written comment similar to what, well, this year's was a little different. And then attend a Conservation Commission meeting to have the discussion about it, which is probably an hour or less, but consider it 2. So the club is prepared to fund $2,250 for the annual budget for a peer review. And, you know, the commission could obtain city funds if you thought there were additional things you wanted to have done, which the club doesn't think are necessary and reasonable. And frankly, it's gotten to the point now actually where the DeRosa folks are familiar with the area, the planted areas, the comments they just submitted this past week after their site visit last month kind of shows that they're caught up on what's going on and are familiar with the areas. So the club is still in the position of saying that $2,250 would be a reasonable amount for DeRosa Environmental if you wanted to continue to use them to do the peer review. But that was the nature of the email that we sent, and we had some comments on the table that you had provided that kind of laid that out. So that's sort of where we're at.
I would like to go back to the beginning, if you will. I believe it was in December of 2022, maybe I'm wrong on that. You guys cut down 625 trees and 233 trees were in wetlands. And our agent did a site visit in January of 2023, and the report shows that the 233 trees that were cut down were in wetland or wetland adjacent areas. And this was in the winter, okay? And it happened, I believe, over a short amount of time. It wasn't until 2023, and certainly after February, that Salem Country Club hired, I believe, Weston and Sampson to delineate the wetlands. So you had no idea where the wetlands were when you cut down the trees. And in November, you were required to send in a report on specific trees removed from the wetlands. And I discovered through trying to correlate your restoration plan and the spreadsheet showing all the trees that there was no correlation. We couldn't figure out on paper on your restoration plans where the trees were. You then resubmitted a new restoration plan with corresponding tree tag numbers, and that was in 2024, not November 2023. My point here is that every time we ask for something, we're not getting great information. And this is a finite issue. The trees are gone. What did you do? And it's your property. You should know exactly where they were and what the location is and how to identify them. In July of this year, there was a site visit, which was recent, and everybody that was there, I believe it took 4 to 5 hours. There's 233 trees to find, and they all have individual tags. And it didn't take 2 hours or 3 hours. I don't believe you can look at 233 trees in less than 5 hours, including or plus, I'll say plus travel time. The upshot is that now we have this information. We're seeing that trees were missed in the original site, in the original plan. Tags were not, there were 2 tags that were missing. And this was after DeRosa had a chance to review all your data and look at the site visit. The other part of this is that this information, again, is like not complete. I asked you for a drawing, and admittedly it was short notice, but I asked you for a restoration plan showing dead trees highlighted on a plan, with the tag number or whatever in red circles, and you had indicated trees started sprouting from tree stumps that weren't removed. And that I said, fine, show me on the plan which trees are sprouting. Use a green circle on those. You submitted a plan this week that had orange spots. I don't even know what they were. They were just strange shapes. And I'm not sure what that meant, and there was no real huge identifier. on that. Again, I find it problematic that when we're looking for specific information, it's very difficult to get it without, pulling teeth. Our time is valuable, Barry, and we're not getting paid. We're all volunteers, and we've been doing this now for 2 years. And you guys did not ask us permission to cut down trees. You just went ahead and did it. And then you come back and say that, well, we're charging you too much money. I don't get where you're coming from. You're not doing the job we're asking you to do. Where are the trees, and why is it taking so long to identify all this stuff? And what does the orange blob mean on your plan?
Okay. Let me respond to what you just said.
Okay.
Wow, where to begin? With regard
Begin
to
with the fact that you guys violated the law.
I'm not going to begin there. I'll begin with what I'll address the issues that you raised. I mean, there's no reason this much time down the road to start going back over and sawing sawdust. So let me just say this, if I can. I believe you're inaccurate with regard to the cut trees. Weston and Sampson provided plans years ago at your request with indicators of the locations of where trees were cut. They GPS located, and you have a set of plans with dots showing all of the cut trees. So I dispute your suggestion that you
But
never
there
got.
was no.
Mr. Chairman, let me go through each of the things you said, because you spoke at length and I listened. Let me respond if I can.
Go ahead.
So I disagree that the club never provided you with information of where trees were cut. That was used to identify areas where replanting would be done in a restoration plan that you directed in your enforcement order. We, over the course of time, have geolocated all of the planted trees, have put tag numbers on all of the planted trees, and have identified in a set of figures all of the planted trees geolocated with the tag numbers. The red circles that were shown on the figures that we just resent to you in the last day or so at your request, that's not orange, that's red, but it was done as a faint red in order to not obliterate the identifier symbol of the tree species or the tag number. There are only 33 of them, and on all of those figures A through L, it's not difficult to see a red circle or oval on each of those trees so you now know where the trees that have not survived are located. It's not hard to see that. And we provided hard copies of those as well.
It's not on your key plan. It's not identified. I had no idea where the dead trees were.
Yeah, if you look, Mr. Rizzo, if you look at those figures, if you go to area, pick one that has B, area B or area D. If you look at each of the locations where there's a tree, and I don't know, can I share my screen? Is this, if you allow me to share my screen, let me call it up. My screen's opening up if you bear with me. Okay, so share. So if you can see this screen.
Yep.
This is area B. I don't know that there were any there. Bear with me. So this is area E as an example.
Yeah.
So this has a red oval, 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 this
Well,
has
you're saying red oval, those are orange to me.
Okay, let's agree to disagree on the color. it's faint red that it was done with the color red, but to avoid obliterating the image of the tree symbol, it
Okay,
was done in a faint number. So let's call it orange, call it red. I really don't care. But
okay,
you're able to see the number of the tree, and that shows you on the legend that that tree is a striped maple. If I had put a red circle, or if we had had a red circle put on that was solid, we would not either be able to see the number or the type of tree. So that's
No,
okay.
I get it. I get it. I get it. The only difference is you needed to put that oval on the key plan on the right because I had no idea what it meant. I've been looking at these plans.
The chairman asked us to send you the set of figures, and I wrote a letter. There was a letter that accompanied this.
I have the figures. I have the figures. It's a simple thing. You could just take that orange oval and put it on the right-hand side of the key plan.
Sure, and we're happy to do that for you. Happy to do that for you. Mr. Rizzo, the chairman asked, can you put red circles around the trees that are, and we did that. Let me just also share this again. I want to show you the other thing. The reason we didn't put a green square around the trees that are
sprouting trees.
sprouting is because the figures already had.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I get it. I see.
Oh, you got that part? Okay, good. All right,
Yeah,
well, we're happy with that. We'll put a little red circle over here, and we'll say that shows an indicator of which tree did not survive. Okay, if that makes you happy, we'll do that.
Thank you.
So I don't want to have this be contentious, but we've done everything you've asked in the manner you have asked, in the time that you have asked, including expanding the no disturb zones, putting in the granite markers. So I'm going to just leave it that the club's position is, Mr. Chairman, that your summary of that the club has not done what you've asked in the time and the manner, we disagree. I will say this, the last site visit that Rizzo, I was going to say Rizzo Environmental, they used to be an environmental firm, that DeRosa Environmental did, the club had a limit on time that we had to be off the course by noon. And because there was a tournament, the folks from DeRosa showed up around 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and we completed their visit around every one of those areas, A through L, where they investigated every one of the trees and every one of the tags and provided you with the report that you got from them this week, where they, including the spreadsheet, where they indicated their observations about the conditions of the trees, the conditions of the understory, the shrubs on the pond bank on 2. They completed that site visit in 3 hours and spent a fair amount of time in each of the areas. So I don't agree either that it can't be done in 3 hours. And that was with more than one of their people. You know, we would have moved faster if they hadn't separated and then come back and shown each other's tree. I mean, that was the way it went. You know, Evan went off to one tree and Mike DeRosa went to another. And then they would cross over and show each other what they saw about bird nests or baby birds. So it probably could have been done even faster. In any event, the dispute we had over the peer review costs previously was because, and I don't want to go backwards over stuff, you know, but it was an issue of extremely high estimates and overruns and billing to the estimate. And we think that, we finally have reached the point where there's a good relationship going. DeRosa's familiar with the areas. Their people have seen the course. And, they're working off of, and we're working off of a spreadsheet that, they created, that the club agreed to use for an update for each annual report. So bottom line is the letter report that you just got from DeRosa confirmed the club's compliance with all of the conditions of the amended enforcement order, the second enforcement order. The one issue they had was what you wanted to do about 100% survival. They even made the comment, which we were pleased to see and we think is reasonable, that the sprouting and other regrowing trees, there are other trees, by the way, that where just new trees have grown and have in the understory and have become pretty well grown up in addition to the sprouting stumps. And their suggestion was that the commission could consider using the sprouting and growing new trees to offset any dead trees. They've made the comment several times in their report that the understory and the shrub and herbaceous vegetation around those planted areas is strong and healthy and robust. I mean, we expected that to happen. We weren't sure exactly the timing of it, but if you've seen the pictures that were provided, and if you want to come see the course yourselves, these areas are very strongly and well reestablished, and almost 90% of the trees are growing and growing well. There are some that are stressed, but we're going to keep an eye on that. We're going to have another inspection by our arborist this fall to give you the November 2024 annual report. And we're happy and comfortable that we think the club is doing what the enforcement order required, and that this course is having a lot of successful restoration, including the pollinator habitats that were created. So
let me ask you a question.
That's our summary.
Let me ask you a question.
Certainly.
The number of dead trees is finite, correct? We know how many dead trees there are.
Based on inspections, yes.
233 dead trees.
No.
I'm sorry. 12% of them were dead.
33.
Okay, 33. When are you going to come before us to submit a request to buy replacement trees? Not sit there and tell us that the squirrels planted trees with their nuts and that there's sprouts growing that we don't even know what they are.
Well, we do know what those are.
Well, you might, but we don't.
No, you do. They're identified on the figures that you have.
Well, my question is still the same.
Well, but let's be clear. For the record, we know what those trees are. There's shagbark hickory, there's a number of cherry, and there are a number of maple and oaks as well.
When are you going to buy the replacement trees that are dead?
Well, the club actually is of the view that what DeRosa Environmental suggested is a good idea, that there's really no need to plant additional trees, that the 100% we think was an excessive number to begin with. We believe that that's not standard, but we also believe that we didn't know at the time that there would be such successful resprouting and growth of additional trees in those areas, in those planted areas. Frankly, we have to consult with our arborist to determine whether it would actually crowd the areas to put more trees in there. With the regrowth, new growth, and planted trees, those areas are filled in on top of what's growing as understory. So at the moment, the club is asking and that the commission should consider that there shouldn't be a need to plant additional trees. I will add this, as you may recall, and just as a separate thing to remember, that there are 42 trees, I believe it is, from the 6 and 7 project that are yet to be planted. And one option would be to plant some number of those. The requirement in the order of conditions for that project was elsewhere on the course, somewhere on the course. And one option that Bill Rocco has would be to at least put some of those in the right places where maybe there is a gap in some of these areas. So rather than bringing other new trees and trying to find other places to put trees, it may work to overlap that planting onto this issue.
When are you going to put that in writing and propose it to us? I mean, all these things are like off the cuff. And
well, no, it's not off the cuff at all. This is something that we've been waiting for
Mr. Chair, Mr. DeRosa is not here tonight. I need to discuss that with him. I am not in agreement I understand his opinion. I am not in agreement to what he said of not replanting the 26 dead trees and taking sprouts from the stumps that are there as a placement, as to satisfy the same condition of a new tree. I'm not going to accept that. I can't believe that he's saying that. I know what he's saying. Eventually, there'll be a tree there, but these are just sprouts that are coming out of a stump. That is not a new tree. You cut down a 12-inch tree, we're putting back a 2-inch. It died, and because the stump has got a couple branches coming out of it, you want to call that a new tree. It's not a new tree. You need to replace those 26 dead trees.
Well, if I could, Mr. Chairman, through the chair, in fact, some of the strongest leaders on most of those resprouting trees are actually bigger than the planted trees. And so the idea was, as was said in Tom Miles' original plan, on those coppiced stumps, he's coming in next month or later this month, but sometime before the November report, to trim back all the smaller sprouts and retain a single large leader and a secondary leader. But some of those have gotten to 4 inches. I mean, these are not, whips growing off of a stump. These are big and tall, and I think that's the reason that DeRosa Environmental put that in there, is that they are trees now. They're not, they're not like, oh, look at that. There's a skinny little thing growing off of a stump. So I would invite you to come visit and take a look at those with him, because that's why I believe that was what he was observing when he was there and made that comment before we all left the course during their site visit. Greg Hockmith from Epsilon Environmental was out there that day as well, and they were all talking about it in that sense. And it made sense to us. So, I hope you're open-minded to that because of that reason. It's not that they're little dinky things. They're as big or bigger than the planted trees in most cases.
Well, I'd like to see that. I'd like to talk to them and actually come out and observe them, because I just keep hearing you say the same thing about 100% survival is not reasonable. And I just can't believe you're saying that. Your experience in this field, any project that comes before us, when you take a tree down because you're excavating or need something, they replace them with 2 to 1, 3 to 1. That's standard practice on a site development plan. And for you guys to cut down big trees, and only agree to plant 1 tree in its place, and then come back and say that if 25% of them die, that's okay. It is not okay. Well, and I really want to get over that. I wish you would not keep saying that, because it's not correct. It's not fair. Okay, you guys are supposed to place 233 trees, and we expect the 233 trees to grow. If you wanted to factor in that 75% survival rate, then you should have planted 291 trees. Okay?
Well, I will say this, and again,
So
we can all. No, I know, but this was you got to remember, this was a project on the golf course. The premise of what's going on is that this was heavily forested property where, to improve airflow and reduce the need for fertilizing and pesticides on the managed golf course, the areas had, the tree cutting was being conducted. And most of the areas where these trees were removed are in the outer edges of the buffer zone, the 200-foot buffer zone to the drainage streams in the course. They were providing no environmental value to any wetland or stream resource. There were 12 in the 8th hole, the wetland on the 8th hole, and all of the trees planted on that hole have survived. There's been no loss of trees on number 8, area G. But that might, let me just say this point. We fought you. We never thought replanting trees was necessary, but to resolve your enforcement order we dropped the challenge to your enforcement order. the club agreed to plant trees. The club, has avoided having me fight you on lots of things. I mean, it seems like it's been a battle for 2 years, but there were, they wanted us to pursue the appeal to not have to plant any new trees because we challenged and had an environmental report from Steve Ribberty at Epsilon Associates at the time, saying that there was no harm, no adverse impact to any wetland interest of the resources on that golf course. And so, the planting of the trees was done, in response to resolving the dispute over what you were demanding to be done. The no disturb zones were added in good faith. The markers were put in, and
Yes.
the club has never agreed with the 100%, that you've imposed. But such as it is, the fact of the matter is that they did it, and now the significant positive regrowth of those areas and the trees and the understory is a reason to, we think, for the Conservation Commission to look at this as a very successful enforcement action without sort of digging in on, it should have been 3-1 or it has to be 100%. The relationship has improved. The course's practices in terms of coming before you. I mean, we contact Lucia every time a chainsaw starts up, before a chainsaw starts up, so she doesn't get a phone call and isn't aware of what's happening out there.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
So what I'm hearing right now, besides a rehashing of 2-year-old stuff, is that this undergrowth, which is a natural planting, a natural growth of the trees, is occurring. So if this is a natural occurrence with no effort on your part, why should we count it as a replacement for a dying tree? We should probably look at other places where we could put the replacements for those trees that died, and maybe they would find a better location to put them in and they could grow. But I'm not going to count a natural occurrence as you replacing a tree.
Well, but
it requires some effort on your part, okay? And that's what I'm looking for. And it's unfortunate, you're saying, well, they're better than if we planted it. Well, fine, then let them grow and replant the trees that die. The replacement for the trees that have died elsewhere in the property. Does that sound reasonable?
Well, I have to say that I want to emphasize that from the very beginning, one of the disputes that we've had is that there's never been any demonstration of any adverse effect to wetland interests on this golf course from the trees that were cut in buffer zones. And so while
the fact is that,
but that's what's important is that the commission is sort of viewing it as something was harmed in the wetland interest, so the replacement of trees was necessary. And that's not what's in the record of this whole enforcement action. No one has ever proven.
Those trees were against the law, cutting those trees down. So you're taking the law into your own hands and saying, well, they really weren't needed in the first place.
No, that's not that they weren't needed. It's not that they weren't needed, but they weren't. The loss of those trees, if an RDA had been filed to cut those trees.
Well, you should have come before us and asked.
But look, I wasn't working with the club then, and Bill was brand new at the time. And look, we all know what happened. Work was done out there without an RDA or an NOI being filed. That's a fact. But that doesn't translate into an adverse effect on wetland interests.
No harm, no foul, right? Is that
well?
Barry, excuse me.
I will say, Mr. Athos, no harm, no harm. If there's no wetland interest that's been harmed, then there's no need for this kind of.
Well, then you should have petitioned for a change in the designation.
We can't turn the clock back, okay?
I know what you are.
Barry.
We all agree we can't turn the clock back. Okay, let's agree on that.
But you say you've done. We're finally at a point where we're almost done with this thing.
Right.
Finally, we're almost done with this thing. We have things happening, good things happening now, and we wanted this to be completed, and you keep going back.
I'm not going back. The chairman started in 2021. If you're going to put stuff on the record, I'm going to respond and correct it. So I haven't opened this meeting with a discussion about what had happened in the past.
And
Let's
in the
be
past,
clear about that.
let's be clear about this.
Barry, everything that
the enforcement order says that you'll replace 233 trees and they will all grow, the 100%. That's the enforcement order. That's what's in place. Do not bring that up and say that you don't think that that's necessary or that's not the way it should be.
So
all the trees that you cut down in the resource area from our bylaw have a significant effect on the resource area, and every one of them applies because
that's not accurate.
They provide habitat and
no, that has not been shown.
Barry,
that's not a
Barry,
excuse
me, Barry.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
The issue is that the issue is very simple. You guys did not know where wetlands were when you cut the tree down. Admittedly, you weren't involved and you have no responsibility for what the club did back then.
So what does that mean? What's the effect of that fact?
It means that if the country club did not know where the wetlands were when the trees were cut, then they just cut trees that they wanted to get rid of, even though they were in wetlands or in protected areas that we have jurisdiction under. We're not fighting you for the rest of the trees you cut down. I could care less. That's our area. And we have shown, and you had to go out and get the area surveyed to show wetland after the fact. You put up markers after the fact so that you would never do it again.
Right.
You've done a lot of work, but when it comes to planting trees, we're looking for these to be replaced and for them to grow 100% of them to survive. Now, my front lawn has trees growing in it because I have squirrels. Okay,
squirrels. Here's what I'm saying. It's been several years. The planting has taken place, succession has taken place, and your peer review consultant, who's been there the whole way, has provided you with significantly clear input that the regrowth is robust, dense, and successful. Even to the point of suggesting, and I'm deferring to what Mr. Rizzo wants to confer with DeRosa, and I understand that, but even to the point of suggesting, you know what, it may not be necessary to replace any of the dead trees. The point I'm making is where there was never any demonstration of adverse effect to wetland interests on this property from the work that was done, admittedly, without a filing having been made. A lot of water has gone over the dam and a lot of natural growth. Let me just finish this one thought.
We went out there,
it's important to see what's out there and to recognize why DeRosa Environmental, who has not been easy on the club, admittedly, and recognize that that's reasonable, has looked at it and said, this looks great. I mean, that's essentially what their report says. This looks dense, and there's shrubs, and there's significant sprouting trees, and all the other elements of the enforcement order have been met. That's what they said. Now, they had suggestions for, what might be done to clear root flares or to watch for a borer or an invasive, a pest that's on some of the beech trees, but that's not just at the club, that's everywhere in the Essex County. But, we've moved on from sort of, you did something wrong, you're going to do something else, just do it. I mean, we're in a more dynamic three-dimensional reality here now of you've got to see what this place looks like. It's grown back. These trees are successfully regrown. And the planted trees are doing great. They're huge. I mean, some of those 2-inch trees are now 4-inch trees in a year and a half. So
These
it's
are
a
too many
shame that
trees.
DeRosa's folks aren't here tonight because yeah, we read their report and frankly, were very pleasantly surprised with how accurately they evaluated it and what they were suggesting. So
I'm
That's
I'm
what-
partially, I'm partially concerned that, this is a 5-year program for all intent and purposes. Hopefully, within 5 years, everything is in great shape. We're only in year 2, and 26 trees already died, of which last year, 13 of them were stressed. And my question to the country club is, when those trees are observed to be stressed, do you do anything to them to try to help them along, or nothing's done about it? Because of the 13 that were stressed last year, now there's 26 dead, of which 13 of them were stressed last year.
yeah, no, I get your point. Some of them were just perhaps bad specimens. It's hard to tell. Some of them, it might just be that, they weren't the right species for the particular sunlight or location. In some instances, Bill Rocco's guys have actually, maybe cleared some of the understory growing around those trees to kind of give them more water and more space. So yeah, no, he's been with Tom Miles, the arborist, and now Greg Hockmith, a wetland scientist with a lot of experience, who I think you're familiar with, has been coming out and doing stuff with the club. Yeah, they pay attention. They trim back diseased limbs or stuff like that. So no, yeah, Mr. Rizzo, they're not ignoring stressed trees. I mean, they're doing what they can to water them when necessary and
And we still
take care
have
of them. Yeah.
we still have another few years to go, and I'm afraid, I'm nervous about, moving forward and having more trees become stressed and dying off.
Yeah.
So
They probably have, it's going to taper off. I mean, these trees have gotten much stronger. I mean, the first year after you plant them is tough, but Bill, I don't know if you want to comment, but of the other trees are all looking, with very few instances that were commented on by DeRosa. I don't know if you saw their spreadsheet that off to the side, they made comments. There were very few comments that were like, hey, this tree has an issue. You might want to clear this or cut that. But no, I'm saying this because I've seen it, it's filled in, and Bill has, made sure that there's no, what's that bittersweet that climbs up? They're cutting back all of that kind of stuff. They're pulling out weeds that are growing right around and close to the root flares. No, it's being managed, Mr. Rizzo. It really is. I do hope you'll come out and look.
I would like to do that.
Yeah. So to recap, I guess, we kind of think that we're in a maintenance phase here. I mean, you guys made it 5 years. I'm sure we had a different opinion about it having to be an annual report for 5 years, but that's easily done. I mean, like I said, Tom Miles is going to come out in the next month and cut back the sprouts on those regrowing trees. So he sort of favors 2 good leaders, a big one and a secondary. And, kind of, we'll be back out there and next year and do the same thing.
Let me suggest that on these trees that have grown as sprouts that you want to call, replacement, or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Can we get them identified and tagged so
Yeah.
that we can follow up the health of these things individually?
I saw
I
that in
feel like-
your email, and I think that's what we're going to do, that when Miles is out there to manage those this next month, we would plan to do that.
Because otherwise we're just talking about,
Yeah.
dandelions.
No, you want to know where they are and what we know
I
what
want
we've got.
want you to know. I want you to know where they are. I want you to map them on your plot and your
They're on the
restoration.
plans.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, they're already on there.
but I need to have a tag number on it too.
Right. that's what I was suggesting, is that we'll add tags for them, so we know what the number is and we can track.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow the health of the tree for a number of years.
Absolutely.
I still feel you need to replace some trees. Like buy new ones and put them in.
Well, we hope that you'll consider what we've asked for, and we will be presenting you in the November report, probably with a more precise proposal for what I mentioned, which is perhaps taking a number of those 42 that were to be replanted for the 6 and 7 and putting them in appropriate locations in some of these areas. For example, you'll see on the chart from DeRosa that of the 33, I think it's 12 are in area J. I think it was J. So,
Yeah,
you know,
J2A.
there may be some spots there that I'll call it opened up. You know, now that
Well,
there were a bunch of them that were close to each other where it would be appropriate to plant, you know, some trees back in there using that number. But that'll all be described. You asked the question earlier of, you know, when are you going to propose that? And the answer is it'll be in this year's November report.
we still need to have a site review to verify the report.
Well, and that can happen in the idea was in the spring, I thought the annual site visit that the peer reviewer was doing was to see how they overwintered in the spring. You know, we can
It's like
talk about, but let's put it this way. When it comes to the peer review, the dispute is not over the idea of having someone take a read of the report. It takes an hour or two, write some comments on it, another hour or two, and attend this meeting another hour or two. That's 6 hours. And
Yeah,
6 hours at $150 an hour is $900, not
That's right.
$5,000. So the
Right.
club, as I say, is quite willing to continue to fund peer review to the tune of 2,000, 2,250, you know, somewhere in that range to cover a site visit, reading reports, writing a report. But it doesn't take 3 people to turn a light bulb, and it doesn't take 10 hours or 20 hours. One of your arborists report suggested 20 hours to write a report.
Yeah, but these are, you asked for the quote to see if it was
I
reasonable.
know they clearly
you
didn't
got-
understand the request, because 20 hours to write a report is, I mean, I just can't fathom how that would be possible.
That's your opinion, but the fact that you asked for information and you got it doesn't make it wrong.
Well, it makes it unreasonable. There's no way
Only to you.
anybody could take
But
20
I'm
hours.
not
to write a
arguing, I'm
report.
not gonna argue reasonable, unreasonable. Obviously, DeRosa's prices were not unreasonable based on the rest of the quotes we got.
They were not the portion of DeRosa's proposal back in January that the club commented on. We provided you with comments on DeRosa's, I think it was January or February, and we
Whatever,
said,
but the quotes that we just got, the new invoice that you said was high, we quoted it out. Their prices were not unreasonable.
no, I disagree. I think their numbers don't confirm the DeRosa prices. The DeRosa prices, part of it was reasonable. The club still disputes that they need to have 3 people doing the same thing. So
Well, but that's not,
none of those
that's not your,
arborists suggested they needed 3 people. They
yeah,
only
but
had
that's,
1.
but at the same time, if it takes, how do I explain this? I'm assuming the last site visit, there was Mike DeRosa and Evan from DeRosa. There were 2 people. And
I'm
my
going to check
argument
with Bill
is,
Rocco's recollection. Bill, was Abby Manzi with them on this last visit?
no,
I don't recall. She was at one of them. Here's what I'm saying, and
my
I'm
point is that
Mr.
if it took,
Chairman, if the problem with the arborist proposals was that not that they had one person doing the work, but their the number of hours that they estimated for each thing were just outrageous. 10 hours
That's
for a site.
but
Hold
that's
on.
that's
10
to
hours
you.
for let me finish. 10 hours for a site visit and 20 hours to write a report. The only reason that made DeRosa's thing look reasonable is because DeRosa did 3 hours for a site visit with 3 people and meetings and writing reports with 3 people. So the arborist's numbers only matched up with DeRosa Environmental, because if you divide DeRosa's by 3, you get the number that the club thinks is accurate because of the number of hours. The number of hours that DeRosa spends are not unreasonable. It's the number of people they have multiplying the number of hours to do the same thing.
I'd like to move to continue.
Before you guys do that, I've had my hand up for a while, so long I forget what I was going to say. But I just want to confirm, and we probably shouldn't have had this long of a conversation without the DeRosa team here, or at least one person from our team anyway. I thought we were just going to be talking about this, the escrow account. So Attorney Fogel, are you agreeing to start funding 2,250 annual to pay the DeRosa team, which I would agree that is a good idea, because if we get a new arborist in, me and Bill are going to be out there for hours explaining, and it's going to be like teaching someone, and I really don't want to do that, and I don't think Bill does, and I don't think you do. So is that what you're saying, that you do agree that the DeRosa team you will fund 2,250 annually starting this November or starting next year?
No, starting this year with reviewing the November report. And
Okay,
attending
I
it
think that's,
constantly, yeah.
I think it's
Right.
fair, and I do also want to, I think that maybe some commission members, or maybe you guys could send some pictures of those resprouting trees, because the replication does look great. I know you guys probably don't care about my opinion, but
I
it did
didn't
look
mention that
really
Lucia
good.
was there, but you did see it. That's right.
Yeah, it looked really good. And honestly, I think that, we had some hiccups in the beginning, but I think that the Salem Country Club has really brought this around. And I think they've did, the most that they could with the situation. And I was glad to hear Attorney Fogel saying that Tom Miles is going to be out there nurturing the strongest sprouts. So I won't get into any of that, but I'm feeling like maybe we should we should be waiting until DeRosa's here to start talking about, because a lot of the stuff was asking about, are these natural, some of them were cherry trees, I think, that were coming back. And maybe DeRosa's team could enlighten you on why, maybe we could do like a 50-50 match, or again, what Attorney Fogel said, or someone said, that we don't want to start crowding these trees in either, because then we're going to have a problem. But anyway, so the 2,250, you would send me a check soon for that? All
Yes.
right. Is everyone, that's all I think I really had to say. We do have some other people in the audience. Probably should have put them before this because they're probably really quick. But otherwise, I mean, if you guys want to continue on the conversation, I just feel like we were like kind of fighting, and it didn't seem too healthy.
Um,
Do we have a motion to continue?
Well, I'll withdraw that if there's people in the audience that want to talk briefly.
I think she meant on other matters, Mr. Athos. Like the next item on the agenda.
Oh, not for this matter? This is all that matters, right?
And if you guys have
This
more
is the
stuff
most
to say,
important thing.
Okay, that's, all right, so move to continue.
Second,
Could I ask, are you talking to October 9th or to when?
October 9.
Because we're on the agenda for an extension for the amended order for the 6 and 7 project, for that date anyway. So I think if someone from DeRosa, if you want to have them here and talk any of this through, we'll be here on the 9th.
Okay.
did you already give me that paperwork?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll go double.
I'll remind you by email. Yeah.
I'll look. I'll be in the office in the morning. I haven't looked at my pile yet, but if I don't, it's a big one. So if I
Do you remember you said it's too late to get on the 9/11 agenda, but it'll be up for.
okay, that makes sense. Yeah, yes. I'll look if I don't see it, and please send me an email. But I will be looking at everything tomorrow because it's the deadline.
Okay. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Right. So that motion was made by Mr. Athos. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All right. So I'm gonna the alternates cannot vote. So roll call, that motion was made by Mr. Atha, seconded by Ms. Green. Roll call, Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comac,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
and Commissioner Athas.
Yes.
All right, so it is continued to October 9th, 5-0.
Thank you. See you in a month.
Okay.
And I will,
Next item.
I'll send back those figures with the red circle over on the side, on the legend.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think the next item is item 8. Yes. Yeah. Certificate of compliance. Request for full certificate of compliance is made by Douglas White, the owner, on DEP file number 55797. The project was dwelling replacement, cottage restoration, tree removal, patio reconstruction, utility enhancement. The address is known as 15 and 17 Elginwood Road, map 33, lot 62A, and map 33, lot 62X, Peabody, Mass. The order of conditions expired on May 13 of 2023, and we started meeting this today. Okay.
Yes, Mr. White is being promoted to a panelist, so he should be on momentarily.
Thank you. Doug, you're muted.
Oh, I know what,
So-
what's
Hi.
those order conditions.
Give us your name and address, please.
Douglas White, 15 Elginwood Road, 1517. Just requested the order conditions be closed. It's almost 11 years to the day, and appreciate all your help.
Okay. Um,
I was on site through the chair. I was on site. I took some pictures. They should all be on the OneDrive. The site looks beautiful. I don't have any issue with a full certificate of compliance. I don't think there's any conditions that would need to be imposed on it. Also, just want to give the Whites a kudos because they are the first geothermal heating system in Peabody. That's very cool. And the only other thing was to the Whites is that you might need to go back to FEMA. I just started learning, taking some FEMA classes. You are probably want to get in contact with someone at FEMA and find out if you need to reaffirm the LOMA since the work has been completed. I guess you're supposed to go back to them and reaffirm it and give them an as-built or something. But that I guess that doesn't really fall on us. So it's up to you guys how you how you want to vote.
Oh, sure. We have the as-built done for you guys. We'll do the same. Thank you for all the help. It's a real team effort. The DPW, zoning, Mr. Mello and the engineer. Appreciate your help.
we have a motion to issue a full certificate of compliance.
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
Second.
That motion was made by Mr. Rizzo, seconded by Mr. Athis. And the alternates can vote on this if they were able to review the paperwork. Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comac,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Athis,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
and Commissioner Harrop.
Lucia, real quick, Jamie had to hop off. She had a baby emergency, so she just reached out to me to let.
Oh, thank you.
you know.
With no Jamie, so that passes 6-1 with Jamie no longer in the meeting. And do you know exactly what time? Just for the record, do you know exactly what time she popped off?
I do. I can tell you right now. 1 second. She popped off at 8:58.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Brian.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving on.
Congratulations.
Right, thanks again
Congratulations.
for all your help all these years.
Thank you very much. And Lucia, thank you for all your guidance.
Mhm.
Item 9, a request for a full certificate of compliance is made by Levis Companies, Inc. on DEP file number 55935. Project is removal of an existing pool patio shed concrete retaining wall, as well as stabilizing the bank of Goldwaith Brook. Address is now known as 181 Linfield Street, map 100, lot 143. Order of conditions expires on 3/21/27. We started talking about this on 9/11 today. This is the property that was taken over by the bank, correct?
It was a receivership project in
Yeah.
conjunction with the city of Haverhill, of Peabody, sorry.
Thank you. The only issue I remember is that when you took the wall down that was there, the question was on the slope on the riprap and what was created to keep the property from eroding away. Is that been seeded?
Yes, we actually rip-wrapped the slope as requested.
Well, I thought it was also requested that you have some sort of growth there.
There's natural growth there. We planted some seedlings and there is natural growth growing very well.
Yeah. Just side thing. It's been observed in the past several, I want to say 2 months, 3 months maybe, that Goldwaith Brook reached a flood level of 2 foot higher than normal. Have you seen that, Joe?
No, the one thing I have seen is the area that abuts the property that we worked on, the brook is nice and clean. You could see crawfish in there. You could see little fish. If you look upstream towards the left, where the stream is coming down, that brook looks like it's completely full of vegetation and growth. About 4 feet tall growth.
Is that still Goldwaith?
Yeah, it's
Must be.
where this
Okay.
before it
The issue-
reaches our property, that's where it's growing.
Okay, the issue that I was surprised of was that
It's
residents
upstream.
were calling and saying that the water had risen 2 feet, 3 feet. It was a normal thing, and then it went down. Department of Public Services informed me that there was some sort of blockage under a culvert or something, and it was attempted to be cleared. And I guess it's still being looked at. So that had nothing to do with what you're doing, but I just wanted to let you know why the water came so high. There is a project to dredge Upper Goldwaith Brook, which will probably alleviate a lot of the growth. So that'll help everybody. But in the meantime, do we have any comments on a full certificate of compliance?
I'll make propose to issue a full certificate.
You're making a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
All right, that motion, a full certificate was made by Mr. Rizzo, seconded by Mr. Athos. Roll call, Chairman Lazares,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Athos,
Yes.
and Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
All right, so that passes 6-1 with Jamie no longer in the meeting.
Okay, moving on to minor.
Thank you.
Well,
You're welcome. Moving on to minor permits and trees and others. There's no minor permit request. There was tree request to be removed 46 Diane Road and 2 John Road, Sequoia Tree Service, 2 dangerous trees. I'm assuming they took them down already? Yes?
I believe 46 Diane and 2 John Road have already come down. They were really dangerous. And then near 1 Essex Center Drive, that work is going to start like soon. If it didn't start today, it's starting like really soon. And that is just like, it's actually no tree removal. It's just like pruning.
Right.
But it's vista pruning, which is exempt under the regs, but it's closer than 50 feet. It's like right next to it. So I told that there's conditions that they can't remove anything that has roots. They can only prune. And it's basically so that you can see the North Shore Mall sign. And I mean, we kind of have to, it's a pretty big thing. You need to have a sign so you can see the mall. So it's just overgrown. So nothing with roots is getting taken out. It's just pruning for the sight line to the mall sign. So, and again, that should start, and they said that if anything changes before Mayor Tree does anything, he will get in touch with me, and if they have to revise this permit, they will.
Okay, we need a motion to accept. Is that correct?
Sure do.
Okay.
Move to accept.
Second?
I missed who said that. Was that Brian?
No, it's Arthur.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Tom.
All right, so the motion to accept the 2 tree permits was made by Mr. Athis, seconded by Mr. Cassidy. Roll call. Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Athis,
Yes.
and Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
So that passes 6-1 with Jamie no longer in the meeting as well.
Okay, last Riverwalk project, Weston Sampson on behalf of Brendan Callahan for the city of Peabody, environmental exploratory boring exempt activity located near 21 Collar Street for proposed Riverwalk project. Start date to be determined and sometime in the fall of 2024. Anybody here to talk about it?
I thought I sent you an email saying that if you wanted to, or it's on I thought it says somewhere, I know I told you today, Stu, that you needed to talk to Brendan directly and that I didn't expect him to be here.
Oh, I thought we were talking about moving him to the beginning of the meeting. Okay, so we're gonna just continue this then?
If you want Brendan to come to a meeting,
Can we
but
move-
it's an exempt activity. Typically, you guys will accept a letter from a competent source, like who they sent it on from Weston and Sampson.
Okay.
And then you guys will accept it. I mean, it's just boring. And I mean,
It certainly is boring.
a lot of people will do it and not even tell us. And then when I call them and say, why didn't you tell this? And they say it's exempt. Well, it is up to you guys to decide if it's exempt. It's not up to a resident or an applicant or a property owner. So if you want Brendan to come, and I mean, I think it's supposed to start in the fall of 2024. So I really needed to tell him to be here if you wanted. I didn't expect you to want him here. I thought you would reach out to him offline.
I would.
I misunderstood because our discussion, I thought I was trying to move their project to the beginning of the meeting, thinking it would just be 2 seconds, and I didn't reach out and I didn't change it. So, any rate, at this point, I'd like to have Brendan come to the next meeting and tell us where we are and move forward.
Okay, just so you know, the next meeting is it's going to be extremely long. Like it's literally going to be probably till midnight, especially if you want Brendan to come to this. I mean, you guys normally you normally don't make people come for exempt activities unless if it's something like PMLP where, you know, they're trying to, I mean, this is pretty standard. I don't think you guys have ever had anyone come to a
Okay.
meeting for borings.
Do we know what the
All right.
borings are?
I mean, isn't there a piece of paper? Isn't there like a whole thing? There should be something on the OneDrive. I mean, if there's not, then I need to get that from Brendan, but there should be something on the OneDrive.
I see it.
I would move to accept.
Yeah, thank you. I'm nervous because it says fall of 2024. Well, we're like a week away from fall of 2024, and I don't really want to hold up such an important project as the Riverwalk.
Okay.
Second that.
All
Roll
right.
call.
So that motion was made by Arthur, seconded by Mr. Rizzo. Roll call, Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Athis,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
All right, so that passes 6-1 with Jamie no longer in the meeting.
All right. The minutes have been mailed out. Does anybody have any comments?
Just June 12th. I only did June 12th. I only just started July 31. I had an issue with my computer and it had to get wiped, and it wiped out my June, and I had to redo June, and it was very frustrating. Don't click on any links in your emails. And even if you think you know the person, read the email first, because that was my problem. But June has been sent out.
Move to accept.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
All right, that motion to accept June minutes was made by Mr. Athis, seconded by Mr. Rizzo. Roll call, Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Athis,
Yes.
and Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
All right, so that passes 6-1 with no Jamie.
One technical thing before we adjourn. I read somewhere where it's a good idea to reboot your cell phone once a week. And it takes care of all the spam and all the people that have latched on. It stops their ability. And it's just a matter of turning it off and turning it back on once a week.
Or
Anyway.
on another note, just before you guys adjourn, which we should do shortly, unless anyone has anything else to say, I don't think we're going to have our annual joint meeting at Brooksby with the Park Commission. I'm not really sure what happened, but I have not heard back from Parks and Rec. So, and I haven't heard back from anyone at the farm. So I guess we're not having that annual meeting, which is a shame. I mean, if you guys want to push on it, let me know, and I will you know, reach out actively to Jen Davis if you guys think it is absolutely necessary. I mean, it is in the care and custody control agreement, but it's really up to you guys if you think that is necessary, that we absolutely have to have this meeting. I think we've only missed it once, and that was when Jen first took on the position and she wasn't aware of it. What do you guys think?
I mean, I'd like to have it, but I'm also gonna start working a bunch of overtime, so I'm not even sure if I'll be able to make it, depending on when it is. So, yeah, and then not a lot of people are going anyway.
Yeah, and true, and it does start getting dark earlier now, so it's going to be really difficult to even have a tour of the farm.
Yeah, I don't think we should, I don't think we should not have that meeting, in general, you know, every year. So if we miss one, I guess it's not the end of the world, but maybe they need to have a night meeting, come to a Concom meeting then. I mean, we're supposed to have a meeting, but, and doing it there is good because we would get taken around and see the projects and what the changes are and what are things going on in Brooksby Farm. It's kind of really, it's fun and and you learn a lot. And so it's a good meeting. So, I mean, if we miss one meeting, I guess it won't matter, but we should make sure that we still continue to do this every year.
Oh yes, I was abundantly clear to Jen Davis that it's in the custody and care control agreement, and like it's really important that we have one. Do you want me to try and reach out to Jen? I think she's been out of work. I don't really know what's going on. And this sort of just like slipped through the cracks. Should we try to have like a joint park and Concom Zoom meeting? I mean, maybe that'll be easier because she doesn't need to come into the office or anything like that. And then we could get an update, or do you want me to ask Brooksby for a written update of what's been going on? And we can circulate that in lieu of a meeting,
That might work. That would,
an update
Yes.
yeah.
from the farm.
A bag of apples.
I will say that. I can't say that you're gonna get it, but I will say, and a bag of apples.
And a bag of apples for all of us, or?
I'll say it. I don't know how it's gonna go. Maybe one apple each.
An apple.
So I will let Jen know that either some sort of a written letter or update from the farm on what they've been doing over the last year. Or we meet via Zoom, which I have a feeling they're probably going to want to just send a written letter.
Okay.
And I will joke about the apples and see what happens.
Macintosh.
Macintosh.
Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Seconded.
All
Roll
right,
call.
that motion to adjourn was made by Mr. Athis, seconded by Ms. Green. Roll call, Chairman Lazares.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Athis,
Yes.
and Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
All right, so that the meeting is adjourned at 9:26 p.m. 6-1 with Jamie no longer in the meeting.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank
And I
you.
know I said this the last few months because I kept thinking this was going to be the big month, but now if all these people actually get us all their continue items, and I have a bunch of new items, October's going to be a doozy, so everyone get a good night's sleep the night before.
Well, do we want to split October into 2 meetings?
I mean, at this point, I can't really do that, but because I can't do it on the fly right now because I have to go and see if I even can have access to Zoom because other people use this account. So
Maybe we can just talk really fast.
I mean, we can see where it happens, and then if we get to a point and we still have like 5 items, that we'll have to just be like if it's 11:30, we'll have to be like, you guys are all heard next. I can try to figure out a couple dates before the meeting. I guess let's see what happens.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right.
Okay.
You have a good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Yeah.